I'm visiting today with Rosie Williams, who authored a book called Repurposed Faith. Rosie, we've talked a little earlier about the journey you've been on. You've written the book, you've gotten it published, a launch is on the books, some pre-orders possibly. You have to be wondering some things about now. What kinds of things are going through your mind?
Well, I think whenever you write a book, especially the first time, you kind of wonder, like, is anybody really going to buy it or read past the first chapter? How many bookcases will it take to store all those books in my basement?
Oh, that's
might
not going
be
to
a
happen.
question.
Not going to happen.
Or will I actually have to reorder? I mean, those are some of the questions that come to mind.
I know there are 10 different chapters and they cover different topics. What do you hope happens for people who pick up the book and start reading?
I would hope that in the long run that it would lead them into a closer relationship with Christ because of maybe having been able to identify some of the roadblocks or obstacles that they might have picked up somewhere along the way in terms of their faith. I know I've struggled with everything that I wrote about myself, and to be able to maybe grab a hold of some of the ideas or maybe just one idea that would maybe help them.
Rosie, I know it's early on and the book's not officially out at this moment, but I know some people have read it. Have you gotten any feedback on it?
Yeah, I've got a little bit of feedback. I was really happy to hear from my pastor, Jim Congdon, and the pastor at Topeka Bible Church, that this book would be something that he would want to have in his library for when his people would come in and ask him about the quiet time. I had early on felt a little bit intimidated. I wanted the book to be accurate doctrinally and scripturally. So it was good to pass the Jim Congdon test.
I'm wondering if you've been out in a conversation or something with someone, not intending to talk about the book, but something, either one of the chapters or something about the book kind of got into the conversation.
We were out to breakfast, and the waitress, somehow in all the conversation, the topic of the book came up. And so I mentioned to her just the title, Repurposed Faith, and she was asked. Then she'd asked me more questions about, well, what is that about? And so I described that we're talking about some obstacles to a person's faith, that maybe they've lost their faith or they're questioning their faith, and I told her that one of the chapters that seems to always hit a chord with some people is the chapter about a loving Heavenly Father. She opened up and started telling me her life story about her dad and how he wasn't ever there for her. And she said, I would devour that book. She said, I need to strengthen my faith. It was a surprise to me that someone I didn't know would open their heart up just based on the title of the book. Wow. And so that was a realization that really this is bigger than just me.
And he'll use you, whether there's a book in somebody's hand or not, because of what you wrote. I'm wondering where you are emotionally. Are you excited? Are you worried? Are you exhausted? Are you glad it's over? What emotions are going through you right now at this stage of the process?
Well, I think you think when you write a book and you press send and it's gone that, okay, I did this. I didn't realize that these books you write have a life of their own. They have follow-up to-do lists of their own, pre-publication checklists that have to be done. Actually, it's very tiring. But I think above tired, I think I'm just excited. I've got lots of emotions. I'm cautious. I'm cautious too, because when you're marketing something like a book that you wrote, and yet at the same time your heart desires to give God credit for all of that, sometimes it's hard to keep that balance in check. And knowing myself as I do, and my tendency to maybe want to have more of the attention or more of the credit than I really should take, sometimes my excitement has to kind of be tempered a little bit.
Well, let's talk about the future. So what happens next? Is there another book?
Well, before I got a contract for this book, I had also written a children's book, and it was for military kids. Now, my husband and I work together in a military ministry, and my husband also has done puppets in the past. And so now our brainstorm is to take that children's book that I wrote, add a puppet DVD with that, and see where that goes. One thing I've learned in writing this book is to slow down a little bit, to make sure that as a plan is being developed, that prayer goes into that, and that I lay that down instead of hanging on to it too tight. Just give it back to Him as I have ideas, because sometimes the ideas are from Him and sometimes they're from me.
Do you have any final thoughts for your readers about the book, about the process, about you as an author? What do you want them to hear?
I have a heart for people that feel like that they're standing on the sidelines. Like maybe even they were involved in a ministry, and I heard one girl, I used to have a purpose, but now I don't know what it is anymore. And there's so many different people that feel like, well, that's nice for you that you wrote this book, and almost like I wish I had a purpose in life. But yet, as I wrote in the book, it's not about my purpose, it's about God's purpose. And He has a purpose, He has a holy calling for every single one of us, and that He's not asking us for perfection. He just wants our presence. He just wants a relationship with us, that He is just one prayer away, and that God still isn't finished with me yet.
Well, we don't know what the future holds, but we know who holds the future. And looking forward to seeing how God uses this book in the lives of the people who read it. Thanks, Rosie. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Jerry.